Over the past 2 years, some of our neighboring schools also went through a transition of presidents. Andrew Springer went to these schools to see how situations were handled.
What does GW have in common with American and Gallaudet? All three have new presidents. Knapp at GW, Cornelius Kerwin at American, and Robert DeVilla at Gallaudet. But unlike GW, our neighbors have not had an easy transition. At American, it was a case of misused funds that spurred the departure of President Ben Ladner. Joe Vitalich is president of the AU student government.
Our president, Benjamin Ladner, was stealing money from the university. He too, he came in with grandeur. He was an ethics professor. He talked a lot about being moral leaders, and it was just a complete hypocrisy on what he was doing in office.
Now, I think we'd have a real problem if you found that the administration, the faculty, the board, the staff, somehow irresponsibly and without accountability, losing money, spending money, nobody knows where it is. In fact,
close to $500,000 of questionable spending prompted the AU Board of Trustees to ask Ladner to leave, with a $3.75 million severance package that sent students over the edge.
It's interesting how you describe it as overthrown, because it really was. It was like beheading a monarch in all essence.
Vitalich said Ladner stuck out like a sore thumb on campus and didn't understand the students. His replacement? Dr. Cornelius Kerwin, American's provost, a professor and alumnus.
So it wasn't a difficult decision, because he exemplifies our ideals. So at the end of the day, it was really the right call.
Next exciting stage of a very, very bright.
Outrage was over the choice for the next president at Gallaudet, Jane Fernandez. Students were outraged last year over the decision and shut down the university with protests that drew national attention. But the campus culture at Gallaudet is much different from American and GW. Gallaudet is the only college for the deaf and hard of hearing in the country. Kate Nordine covered the protests for the Daily Colonial.
Mainly, they had an issue with how she didn't represent the deaf culture that they represented. And, there's various types of deaf culture they were explaining, whether you were born deaf, you became deaf later.
Some said Fernandez could only speak sign language at a third grade level, which made then Student Association President Lamar Thorpe take notice.
Why was that such an important issue for you?
And it still is an important issue. Student rights are important. I got to tell you, I recently had a...
Thorpe proposed using SA funds to buy blankets and coal for the protesters, but after senators objected, Thorpe spent $200 of his own money to do so. Then University President Stephen Joel Trachtenberg objected to the protest and Thorpe's support. You can't go around getting into every fight that's going on in the neighborhood, Trachtenberg told the Daily Colonial last October. Thorpe said the search process at Gallaudet moved too quickly, so fast that students didn't have a say in the presidential search process.
What's the comparison?
There really isn't a comparison between the situation at Gallaudet and the transition to Knapp here.
GW relied on town halls in its year-long search process, and Vitalich said American brought students into the discussion as well.
I think you all understand the importance of a university being student-centered. And our president now gets it, and your president gets it. I think that's what has to be the heart of the university president.
Gallaudet's Board of Trustees eventually backed down from Fernandez, but not before over 100 student protesters were arrested. Tori?
Both Gallaudet and American promoted their provost. Why did that work in American but not Gallaudet?
Well, it worked in American because Dr. Kerwin was a student, so he became an alumni. He was a professor, then he became provost. And people really loved him in all three of those roles, and he really went into that role beloved. Actually, he was interim president while they were looking for a new president. But the culture at Gallaudet, as I said in the piece, is so much different. Gallaudet is the only deaf and hard of hearing school in the country. And when you ask people why they were protesting, it seemed like everybody gave you a different answer. I got different answers from reporters and even from Lamar Thorpe. When I talked to Lamar Thorpe, he had a different answer. Some people said she could only speak sign language at a third or fourth grade level, and that turned a lot of people off. So there's a lot of reasons why Fernandez didn't work at Gallaudet. But again, the culture at those two schools are just so much different.
What is the atmosphere like at the campuses now?
Well, at American, a lot of the ambivalence that was once there has disappeared. People looked around American and said, why don't we just promote Dr. Kerwin? We like him, he's doing a good job as intern program, and that's what they ended up on doing. So people like him, he doesn't stick out like a sore thumb like Ben Ladner did there. At Gallaudet, they're just starting to recover. One Washington Post said things are upbeat and calm now, but Gallaudet has major challenges to overcome now. After all the protesters, they lost 10% of their enrollment. They were put on probation by the accrediting board, the Mid-Atlantic States Accrediting Board, and they just got off that. So they have a lot more challenges to overcome than American does.
Have the new presidents been inaugurated yet?
Dr. Davila at Gallaudet took over on January 1st, and Dr. Kerwin, an American, has been acting for a long time now, but he's going to be inaugurated at around the Americans' big celebration of their founding day this February.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.